Welcome back to Weaponized. We're on episode 15, and as my co host Noah is not here, we have a sub in, our managing editor, Soul Kiwami. Introduce yourself, bro.
Well, thanks for having me, Rain. It's been a long time coming. I can't
Yeah,
believe we're on episode 15 and I haven't been on one episode yet.
yeah I
But
know, dude.
uh, that's the busy life of a managing editor.
It's true.
To make it quick, I've been at Final Weapon for about nearly 6 years. It'll be the 6th year this July, I think. Um,
Yeah.
but for those who don't visit the website that often, I basically run the day-to-day operations when it comes to news, reviews, basically the general direction of uh, news flow for the website, and I also reach out to PR companies
Mm-hmm.
for all sorts of opportunities, and vice versa. They'll reach out to me. Basically, I represent Final Weapon uh, in the background while you and Noah uh, take care of the channel and come up with all these amazing ideas for videos. And it's it's been a pleasure being on this ride, and I'm
Yeah,
really happy to be here and
dude.
finally introduce myself, basically.
That's awesome. Honestly, got me a little emotional. So I want to give Soul his flowers on this episode. He's been there pretty much since the very start. He has put in more work than any human has put into anything. I mean, shout out to my co-founder Noah, but Soul's pretty much up there in terms of, the effort that he puts into the content, getting out tons of articles day in and day out and never really ever complaining about it. And I understand like there's things to complain about, but you know,
Oh yeah, every job has that, but
every job has something to complain about, yeah. But you've been an incredible uh, administrator, an incredible managing editor, and I mean, without you, we wouldn't be here. So, welcome to Weaponized. This
glad to be here.
podcast, yeah, this podcast is about weaponizing our voices. Final Weapon is the final weapon to the industry. Um,
Rightfully
that
so.
doesn't mean that everybody else exactly, and that doesn't mean that everybody else is an enemy or an adversary. It just means that we take this very seriously. We came into this industry with, a goal in mind of, changing the way that things were ran, and making a big difference in terms of, clickbait and, us wanting to be the most transparent business of all. And I think we've done an incredible job at doing that. And I can't believe that we're still going 6 years in the making. And we have this YouTube channel, and in my opinion, it's been very successful, regardless of what anybody else thinks. I think it's been a great experience. So, um, Grand Theft Auto 6. Now, I am pretty excited for the game. I really, really wish it came out on PC like day one, but we can't have everything.
Yeah,
What do you think about Grand Theft
Rockstar.
Auto 6, bro?
Yeah, not to cut in too early, but
You're
yeah,
good.
Rockstar is an enigma when it comes to PC releases. They just don't do them first day.
Odd.
But other than that, I'm super excited for Grand Theft Auto
Mm-hmm.
6. Although people who follow the website know I'm a big JRPG nerd, um, I love the Grand Theft Auto series. Uh, the series has kind of been like I got into gaming due in part to Grand Theft Auto and just what it did on the PS2 with games like
Mm-hmm.
Vice City and San Andreas. And I was amazed by by initially the reveal. The second trailer kind of blew it out of the water, because we did see
Yeah.
official in-game footage of it on PS5, and it looks stunning. Um, I know a lot of there was some criticism toward the trailer, and that was mostly due to like, is this actual gameplay? Like,
Yeah.
can we finally see some gameplay? But like, you know, I
Right.
I'm super excited because I already know they're just going to like they're gonna bring a big improvement to to the gameplay we saw in like Grand Theft Auto 5 and even Red Dead Redemption 2 to an extent. So I expect it to be pretty fun. Um,
Yeah,
Honestly, I'm excited to go back to Vice City for this one.
dude, facts, dude. It's been a long time coming, dude.
Very long.
Just that whole area of the world, is so exciting to me. Like Florida, the amount of vacations I've taken to Florida, I just Miami specifically, Fort Lauderdale, that general area. I've been there
Yes.
plenty of times in real life. It's really one of the only places that I go that's not just me living in Nashville. So I'm very familiar with Florida. Um, I have a lot of family that lives in Florida. I have a lot of friends that live in Florida. So it's cool to have us back in, pretty much Miami. So um I wouldn't say I grew up playing Grand Theft Auto, but because my parents were just like, dude, you cannot play M-rated games till you're like 16. And that kind of forced me into the mold of playing like games like Pokemon and Digimon. And I didn't grow up with Grand Theft Auto. I had it around me. I knew about it. I was familiar with it, but I wasn't playing it as a
Mm.
kid until GTA 4 came out. I played GTA 4. I love GTA 4. I
Oh,
went
it's
back and
one of my
played San
favorites.
Andreas. It's amazing. I went back and played San Andreas. I went back and played Vice City. And obviously, I played the heck out of GTA 5. GTA 5 honestly is an amazing game. People, please stop disrespecting GTA 5. I know it's been out for a long time, but y'all are forgetting how amazing that story is. Like,
It's the
I'm talking
GTA
about the story.
Online that
Yeah,
gets the
it
hate toward
is.
it, you know.
It is. Yeah, people always focus on GTA Online as the core, crux of the game, and
Yeah,
yeah.
and also people kind of hate that Rockstar have adopted this business model where they like release one game like every 5 to 6 years. So it's
Oh, it
like
takes forever.
we barely see them like put their uh, expertise to good use other than
It's
like a
true.
live service game. And I love GTA 5. It's kind of crazy thinking back at GTA 5's launch. That was all the way back in like 2013. Like I was
Yeah,
still in
it's
high
a
school.
while ago, dude.
I was
Dude,
still in high
it's
school. It's
2013.
nuts.
Yeah, I was still in high school too. 2013, I was like a junior to a senior at that point. Yeah, I was a junior in 2013, and then the end of 2013, I was a senior in the what is it, May? It's when I graduated. May 2014. I know schools have changed the dates around for things nowadays. I haven't been in school in a very long time. So I can barely remember any of the details. Like, I don't remember any of the specifics of being at school. All I remember is hell and torture. Like, that's
You
all I
know,
remember is hating it.
it's
Yeah.
quite the opposite for me because when GTA 5 launched, virtually everyone in my school at the time was talking about it. Like
Yeah.
that moment. Uh, I'll always remember it because
Hmm.
that's the only thing anyone ever talked about in class to the point where um, it basically disrupted it disrupted the whole school day. But that goes to show how big Grand Theft Auto is, and
Grand Theft Auto is like
to think like
the biggest.
yes, to think that finally at last we're going to get Grand Theft Auto 6, albeit it's not this fall, but you know it's it's going to be the biggest game of 2026.
It
Uh,
is. It's gonna be the biggest game since GTA 5, basically.
yes,
Like, it's just like only Grand Theft Auto can meet these marks, and it kind of stands alone. It stands alone in this. No other game is ever gonna sell that much.
really the only one that could come close is maybe Mario Kart 8 Deluxe now.
That's
That's the
true.
only one.
That's true. That game has been that because that game has basically sold a copy for every freaking Switch that's ever been released. So
Pretty
it's like,
much.
that game is. I mean, that's a huge game. Grant, dude, Mario Kart. We can get into that topic later. I definitely want to talk about
Oh
that.
yeah.
Grand Theft Auto 6 looks amazing, graphically astounding. It's the first game, and I'm being completely honest with you. It is the first game that looks verifiably better than like Cyberpunk. Maybe not like ray traced, path traced Cyberpunk. I'm talking about like overall, like character models and everything, right?
Yes.
Like no game really looked like Cyberpunk maxed out until this game, in my opinion. And like, yeah, people can say FF7 Rebirth. What about those faces? It's like that's not what I mean. Like, I'm not. I mean, like, look at the NPCs and look at everything that's happening in Cyberpunk. Like, if you guys have
Right.
played that game, that is easily like the new standard of fidelity, right? So when we have Grand Theft Auto 6 coming out and some of the characters look so realistic. The sweat. I mean, if you go on the website and you're just looking, dude, I was on the website with my friends. We were in a group chat, a group call, and we were just like mind bent over some of the extreme detail
Oh
that the
yeah.
game had. Like extreme detail that obviously shows why it took them so long. But it's like, this is the very reason. And I'm not going to fault GTA for it because it's GTA and GTA is always supposed to be it's always supposed to be, GTA's role in the industry is to be the game that, you know, enacts great change and shift. Like Grand Theft Auto has always been the most detailed of the games. Honestly, it has. And GTA 5's been out for like what, 12 years? And now we're at GTA 6 coming out next year, and GTA 6 is going to do things that games have never done again, right? And it just shows you why it takes them so long to release these games. And also, like, this is kind of the issue with AAA games, mind you. Like I said, I'm not going to fault Rockstar for it because this is Grand Theft Auto, and it feels like it's Rockstar's obligation to flex, and to, because they're making all their money back. They know they're making their money back. Like, that's like, they can put in billions of dollars of work because they're going to make billions and billions and billions of dollars in return for the game anyway. They're verifiably going to make a profit on the game, no matter how much money and time they spend on it. Right. And see, every other AAA developer and publisher thinks they can do the same thing. They're like, oh, what if we put like a billion? And they never put enough detail for it to really even make sense. Those games never come out with the same level of intricacy that Grand Theft Auto comes out with, right? And they never get the same amount of sales, the same amount of hype. But I don't want to take up all the airtime. If you have anything else to say, let me know. But I want to talk about this post honeymoon phase of Clair Obscur.
Oh yeah. Just going
um,
back on Grand
yeah,
Theft
go
Auto
ahead.
6. I was just letting you finish up there, but the thing that I took away from this reveal the most is that this game has really photorealistic visuals, but it's not to the point where it's uncanny valley. Um, this game definitely still has an art style, and it's subtle, but all the Grand Theft Auto games do have this. Like if you were to go look at concept art for like Grand Theft Auto 4 and Grand Theft Auto 5, the in-game renditions of these characters and even the world are pretty. They still have the almost like the aesthetic, but it's just cranked up uh, in fidelity wise, and that's what I really like about these games is that they're. I feel like Grand Theft Auto is like now going. It's like a franchise that pushes the most out of the hardware it's going to be on, and I feel
Yeah.
like that point's not brought up enough. But I feel like your comparison to like Cyberpunk is pretty it's pretty spot on because I feel like the series is kind of going in that direction where it's like, hey, this game when it comes out, when a Grand Theft Auto game comes out, it's going to push whatever hardware it's on to its max. Because we've
Facts.
again, again, this is the fifth year of the PS5, right? And
Yeah.
honestly, like this game's in terms of like visual fidelity, I haven't seen anything like it on PS5
Ever.
ever. Yeah, and we all know like this game is going to have a ton of content. Um, and again, like I said before, it's going to be iterative. Like it's not going to reinvent the wheel when it comes to combat and gameplay. If you remember that leak from like 2022, I think, where
I
they
do.
showed like a mission with like a crocodile or something, uh,
Hmm.
if I remember correctly. But yeah, if you saw that leak a long time ago, then you'll know it's a Rockstar game. It's gonna play like the other two Rockstar games before this one, but
Yep.
they're going to improve on it, and yeah, my final thoughts are this game's going to be generational, and
Facts.
I'm ready for it.
I'm incredibly excited for GTA 6, and I 100% on the iterative thing. I think, people shouldn't look to the gameplay of GTA, like the core gameplay of GTA, as like something revolutionary. It's always going to be GTA. You can't, why fix what's broken? All you can do is improve upon it. And speaking of, consoles being pushed to the limits, like I can't believe the magic that they're pulling off with the PlayStation 5. Because, like, I know a lot of normies might say that the PS5 is so powerful, but it's like, it's not really that crazy. So it's like, we're finally getting a game that looks generational and not just like, oh, that looks better than the PS4. You know, like there hasn't been many PlayStation 5 games that look ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like where you're just like, wow, this is so much better looking than the PS4. Maybe like, I remember when Demon Souls came out and we were looking
That
at the
that did
lighting of
look good
Demon
at the
Souls.
time. Yeah,
It
that
looked
did look
really
good at
good
the time.
at the time. I thought it looked incredible at the time. And so, that was a game where I was like, there's no way a PlayStation 4 could run it. You kind of see those games, you're like, man, that can't run on the PS4. But this is the first time where I felt like, man, this is really the obvious generational leap that I look for when a new console comes out from these, from the two, specifically PlayStation and Xbox, obviously, because like I said in my Nintendo Switch video, which a lot of people were not very pleased with because they were not accepting the truth. But the truth will come, guys. The truth will come. I'm not shading anybody that was in the comments, but the truth will come. Um,
And we'll
Nintendo, like
definitely
I
be
said,
talking about Switch 2, by the way. That's
100%. We will. We will.
a lot
And
to
so I'll
unpack.
leave my thoughts on the Switch 2 for later in the podcast. But so RPGs, you and I are both incredibly invested and just we're completely consumed by, the Japanese world, specifically, the gaming scene from Japan and specifically, role playing games from Japan. So, when Clair Obscur came out, and this is us talking post honeymoon because I really didn't have the opportunity to do this until our review dropped on our channel. I'm sure guys go watch it if you haven't watched it. I had some very good comments, honestly, very constructive comments. Surprisingly, halfway thought I was going to get nuked.
No blind
But
faith comments, huh?
yeah, no, literally, was incredibly, concerned that people were going to be so disgusted by our, 7 out of 10, 3.5 out of 5, that they were going to be like, we'll never trust you again. But that didn't happen. Thank you to the very intelligent people who came to the video and commented. I really appreciate it. And I know none of you technically agree with the score, but at least you can understand that we're probably one of the only outlets that points out the issues with the game. Now, again, I've played it a little bit, and what I've gotten from it has been a great experience. I don't personally think it's a 7 out of 10 from what I've played. Again, that's just me, but we've already given it our score, and it's our score, and that's what we think. So, what I've gotten from Twitter recently, and people are kind of still talking about the game. It says like 70,000 concurrent right now at this very time on Steam, so it's still very much relevant
That's really
to talk
huge
about.
for a
It's
turn-based
huge.
RPG specifically. That's
It's
we
massive.
we've never seen numbers like that.
Never, never, never. And that's what I was trying to get at with other people, and it's like, you know, regardless of how you feel about the game, I can tell you for sure that this game is hitting revolutionary numbers in terms of sales, especially in the year of our Lord 2025. And not only is it an indie, people don't think it's an indie because they look at it and they go, wow, that's a beautiful game with great voice actors. It is an indie. Um, it is made by very tenured developers, mind you. Um, but the main thing is it's an indie. It was very successful, has incredible music, incredible voice acting, and it has great gameplay. That's something that I think if you've played the game and you can look at it at a base level, it's hard to deny that those are things that the game has going for it. But I think there's been this disingenuous conversation around the game, and I got at this point in episode 14 with Noah, but you're here now, and I kind of wanted to see what you thought about it. But basically, um, the core reasoning for me bringing this up is, um, how do you feel about people, saying that Clair Obscur? It's almost like they're painting this game as like the first RPG, right? As if like no other RPG or turn-based RPG has been created by Square or any of the other developers or publishers that they're adding on Twitter, tagging them and pretty much telling them, you guys should do better. Look at the amount of sales this game got. You should do this. Yeah, how do you feel about that? I mean, how do you feel about that?
I have to admit I haven't played Clair Obscur because
Uh
I've
huh.
just been super busy uh, doing coverage for Oblivion.
Mm-hmm.
Curiously, that's also another game in Unreal Engine 5, but
Yes.
we'll talk about that later. But on the topic of the reception for this game, um, honestly, I have a lot of respect for what the developers managed to pull off with this game because it is hard
Yes.
to sort of break through that sort of threshold with a turn-based RPG. And I I honestly think it's not due to gameplay. I think it's just due to sort of like what the themes of this game are. And
Yeah.
I guess it's going for a completely different theme and aesthetic that I feel like a lot of people have been wanting in the turn-based RPG realm. Um, a lot of these days, a lot of turn-based RPGs, they're from Atlas or they're lower budgeted titles from Square Enix. They
It's true.
they don't cater to this huge audience that's been wanting almost like a not like a blockbuster experience from a RPG, but something new, refreshing when it comes to um, visuals and just they've just been wanting something that is not, oh, we're teenagers preparing to defeat a god or
Yeah.
something
No,
like
I
Persona.
honestly that's almost every RPG like from Japan nowadays. At
Yes,
least, outside of like Trails, a lot of
yes,
the games kind of fall the same, oh, we're at school or oh, this is an isekai or it's always like something, very predictable and samey. So I think
yes.
people kind of just look at that and they go, well, we want something new and refreshing and Naughty Dog esque is kind of what I've been getting from certain people that
And
they feel like this is kind of a Naughty Dog esque game. But go ahead.
that it's good that you mentioned that because that also brings in a whole other sort of conundrum when it comes to the reception around Clair Obscur. It's also that people don't want the old samey RPGs. It's that a lot of people are also uh, sort of stereotyping the RPG genre as
Yes.
that instead of actually experiencing what a lot of uh, the great turn-based RPGs that have come out in recent years have pretty much done. Like a lot of the gameplay mechanics in Clair Obscur, from what I've seen in terms of like streams and you know trailers, I've seen them in other games like Atelier, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it's sort of that stereotype that kind of prevents people from branching into these other great turn-based JRPGs and finding out that hey, it's actually not what I thought it was. It's not just teens, uniting to defeat a god or something in that vein. Um, and I think for Clair Obscur, it managed to sort of avoid that stereotype greatly by focusing on, these sort of like European influence and other aspects that you
Mm-hmm.
just that aren't relegated to being in this JRPG bubble
Right.
that turns people away
Mm-hmm.
for better or worse. But
It's
I think what Clair Obscur shows is that turn-based RPGs can succeed, and I think it comes down to how innovative the story and visuals and the sort of the theme of the game can be. because again, a turn-based RPG is like it's like the chassis or like the foundation of something. And what the developers of Clair Obscur did is they applied a completely different body to it that a lot of people have not seen in typical turn-based RPGs since really
Yeah.
like the old school Final Fantasies, because those games were very revolutionary in their own right.
Yeah, there was
For
nothing like them.
yeah, there really wasn't. At that time there was a lot of sprite-based, you know, RPGs, and Final Fantasy sort of went this completely different direction at that time, and it found success that way, and it blew up to, and it took Final Fantasy to new heights. And I think people have been wanting a franchise that can do that again. And honestly, I think that that attributes to Clair Obscur's huge success.
I mean, that was an amazing way to put it, honestly. Clair Obscur, you know, as crazy as it might sound, if this is something they want to turn into a franchise or, you know, get into other, things that are happening in this grand world, you know, maybe they'll build this big grand world and, maybe have different stories in it or, I'm just theorizing, but, this was an incredibly successful debut from Kepler Interactive and Soundfall Interactive, right? And so it's like this to me, is a really big deal. And I think, I don't want to be the one to downplay it. I can't downplay it. It's right in front of our faces. The concurrent player base, the sales, the conversation, right? The reception. It's not something that can be ignored. Um, and it's not something that can really be faked based on how the industry works. Now, what I will say is, there are games that came out that did kind of, morph the mold a bit. Metaphor was different from the average Persona game. And
Yep.
I think, even though that got a bunch of sales and a lot of people played it and it had a great concurrent, it didn't get the overall conversation. And I don't think maybe I don't want to blame Sparking Zero, but that did come out at the exact same time, and people were definitely talking about Sparking Zero when that game came out. And I think, I don't think that metaphor really needed its own space to breathe. Like I said, Clair Obscur didn't need its own space to breathe. Clair Obscur's conversation was so massive that Oblivion's release didn't even matter. Like,
Yeah,
it's
they
Oblivion. Like, I
they
think
they managed to coexist quite nicely that week.
that was a
You know,
good.
4 million players on Oblivion remastered, and Clair Obscur was already on its way to 2 million. So
Yeah,
no dent whatsoever.
it did not make a single dent. I don't even like to have conversation with people that don't understand that. Like, there's people who are like, this made a dent. And I'm like, it didn't make a dent. This did not make a dent.
Yeah, not at
Because
all.
like nobody expected this game to hit 130, 140,000 Steam concurrent. That's an insane number for a game that is brand new IP, turn based. It's turn based, guys. It's turn based. It's set in the Belle Epoque era, which Lies of P was also set in the Belle Epoque era. Another success. I wish Lies of P was the same level of huge that Clair Obscur ended up being. But the prequel DLC, which seems to be like a 20-hour long DLC, seems to be on track to sell really well based on kind of the amount of viewership it's gotten and the amount of people I've talked
Yeah,
to that are excited for it. Um, that's also set in the same kind of like aesthetic era of France. Um, and it's gorgeous. I mean, it's a gorgeous game. The music is unbelievable. Honestly, the last time that I heard a brand new composer that wasn't like Toby Fox, come out and literally blow my mind was like Christopher Larkin from Hollow Knight, or
right.
like,
I love that
there's certain
soundtrack.
composer, dude, Hollow Knight, I got a tattoo of that game. That's my first tattoo I ever got. Right.
Yeah,
And nothing shook me like that game shook me when I played it, and as an adult, you kind of, and maybe other people feel this way, but as an adult, you kind of put aside your, you know, your expectation of anything else blowing your mind. Like you're just like, man, maybe my mind will never be blown again. you know, and it's maybe because you're watching the wrong things or because you're playing the wrong things, right? But man, I remember Undertale. This is another turn-based game, right? I remember Undertale, hearing about it. I hadn't played it for a whole year. Nobody spoiled me on it. I had no idea what it was, right? I think I left it alone for an entire year. And I picked it up and I played it, and I was at the worst point in my life possibly, right? I can't imagine a point in my life where I was more depressed. I was inevitably forever changed by that game. And the memes and community aside, like, don't let that fool y'all. That's a serious, serious, serious creation by a very serious developer. And I have massive respect for Toby Fox because he was able to then jump into Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I mean, he was on Sword and Shield, but his composition for Scarlet and Violet is mind blowing. You guys can hate Pokemon all you want, but the music in that series is, I don't want to say it's second to none, but it doesn't really have a parallel competitor. You know what I mean? In terms of, like, you know, think about the key themes that come out of that game. That's another turn-based game that I've seen discussion on recently. And, you know, like, it's chaotic, brother. And what I will say is I'm going to finish Clair Obscur, of course. And I'll finally have a final opinion on it. But there's not a game like it, to be honest. While it does kind of play like Paper Mario, and there are things that are similar that it shares with other, you know, games that it was inspired by, it does have a lot of inspirations.
Yes.
You know, I think it's important to, you know, be inspired, because people who aren't inspired, who pretend like they just came up with the first idea. I mean, it's really hard to be the first person to do something. You know, when Sword Art Online came out, you know, we already had Dot Hack. You know, like when ReZero came out, we already had Sword Art. Like, there's always going to be another bigger, better thing that comes out that people are going to love. And, you know, very happy for the team that made the game, and I wish them, you know, even more success in the future. And honestly, I'm very thankful to them for getting people to realize that this is not, you know, a niche genre, and maybe even, you know, the people that, you know, really maybe need to go back to making turn-based games will do that. You know, maybe that will bolster them to actually come back and believe in the product, you know? I mean, Pokemon makes a turn-based game that everybody thinks is mid, and it sells 30 million copies, you know? I mean, it's just like, it doesn't matter. You know, you make something iconic and revolutionary, and people are going to keep eating it up. So Final Fantasy, unfortunately, as strong as Square Enix is to us, you know, in Final Weapon, I will say it has not had a crescendo of sales. It has, in fact, been ever decreasing amount of people interested in the series. So
And we
while
certainly
I think
saw that with 16, especially.
100%, 100%, and that's really depressing, because as much as I, you know, can be frustrated with 16, you know, feeling like it ignores, you know, the core reasons why I like Final Fantasy in the first place, I can say that it was a great game, excluding the fact that it's really not an RPG. It's not an RPG at all. You know, I caught myself trying to. It's not an RPG. It's just not an RPG, and I don't
Very,
want to
very
have
loosely.
it. Yeah, and I had an argument with somebody who was like, you know, they're you know, you have these devil's advocate, you know, playing people who love to create a narrative about things that have already been established. You know, it's like, I'll go to a website like Wikipedia, who, you know, back in the day we used to say was irrelevant, we couldn't use it, right? But, you know, if the very genre is role playing game, what role am I playing in 16? You know what I mean? Like, if the genre is role playing game, right? What am I role playing? You know, there's nothing, like, all the side quests, even the elements in the game don't have any sort of super effective nature, right? It's like you use fire on a grass enemy and it makes no difference. Like, you know, there's no, like, you know, status effects or anything. Even Kingdom Hearts 3, Sora gets burned and he starts grabbing his butt and jumping around, you know, or like he gets hit with water and he starts becoming sluggish, or, you know, he slips and falls in the ice. You know, there are RPG mechanics in Kingdom Hearts, right? And those are
Correct.
not present in FF16. FF16 is completely DMCified, right? Which I don't like. That's what I don't like
Hey,
about the game.
They hired the combat director, and that's what they wanted.
They did. That's what they wanted, and they got it. And I
It
don't
it
think it was good for them.
yeah yeah it didn't land.
No.
It didn't land at all. Even there's a dangerous dialogue to be had of Claire Obscur outselling 16,
I
and
wanted to talk about this.
that's that's something Square needs to take note of. Because the fact that that
100%.
can even become a reality is crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
that an indie could outsell Final Fantasy. I mean, Final Fantasy being, one of the most revered RPG series of all time for a very long time. And then we got to 12, which I love 12, by the way. And then we got to
Same here.
13, and then we were just like, guys, is this series even good anymore? Like that's kind of the general opinion. And, as much as I like the aesthetic value of 13, I have to admit, yeah, it's not the best. So, you know,
A
that didn't
remaster
help
can
their
certainly
case.
fix some things.
Oh,
But
we definitely need a trilogy for sure.
it's crazy how it hasn't happened yet. But
It's so frustrating. I can't take it. I can't take it, bro. It's like I feel like I'm scratching at my skin, like trying to peel the shit off. Oops, I'm cursing on the podcast. I'm trying to think about like why they wouldn't do this. Like, why would you not release? I get it. The games are big. The FMVs and everything is so big, but like, why don't we have a 13 trilogy? Remaster. It just doesn't make sense. Like, I feel like that would at least sell, enough to make it worthwhile. You know, like it.
yeah,
People haven't played it for years.
you'd think they'd do that sooner, but I don't know. It's really strange. I feel like um I don't think I, I don't know if Final Fantasy, like the mainline, needs like a reset of some sort.
I
But I
feel
feel
like it
like
does.
yeah, I think it should. It needs to
This is tough.
not
This is a
not
tough
go back to
combo, brother.
it. It's hard to formulate words on it because it's like Final Fantasy still does a lot of great things that I like in RPGs.
Oh
More
yeah,
specifically, Rebirth, because Rebirth is a great game,
it's so
and
good.
I feel like Rebirth, it has a good core that I would like to see in more Final Fantasy games. But at the same time, as we're seeing Clair Obscur sort of just blow up, become this massive, massive game in the span of like 2 weeks, um, maybe Square Enix should take a risk and be like, hey, let's go back to our roots for Final Fantasy XVII and sort of like rediscover what made this franchise so great in the first place, and try to
Yeah,
go for something that a lot more people can get into while still having the RPG mechanics that people really came to the dance for. And I feel like that's one way this franchise can sort of recover and get to a place where it should be by now, with 16 mainline entries and a whole remake trilogy.
it's insane to think that we're at a point in Final Fantasy where, the remake trilogy is really the only thing, that they really have that is to me an exceptional product, right?
Yeah,
Like,
because I mean we're still looking forward to like Dragon Quest, and I mean I love Dragon
oh,
Quest.
Dragon Quest is goaded, and we've never had to have this conversation about Dragon Quest. We know Dragon
Yeah,
Quest does not need a reset. Dragon Quest is killer.
yeah, I love Dragon Quest. I'm very curious about how 12 is going to turn out, considering we
And that's
haven't
supposed to be a really
heard
serious and mature game.
apparently, but we haven't heard or seen anything about it for like what,
Oh
like
my
three
god.
years? Like
Yeah, it's a head scratcher for sure.
they're probably wanting to get the remakes out first before we ever seen anything of Dragon Quest 12. But I'm certainly very excited for 1 and 2 HD 2D.
Hmm.
Um, those are as traditional as a turn-based RPG can get, but I love those. I love those experiences. Just being a legendary warrior set out to do something and change the world. Sometimes a simple game like that can go a long way and sort of like bring that adventurous spirit out of you. Just see all this crazy fantasy world, and I feel like that's something Dragon Quest does very strongly. And although it doesn't get like the most sales outside of Japan, I mean, it has a core identity that um, Final Fantasy really doesn't have right now, which is a
Dude,
whole other
wow.
debate.
Yeah, dude, wow. Honestly, you're right. Like, dude, because Dragon Quest is infallible. Like it's been like it's been an absolute constant.
Yeah.
Since it was first like incepted, like into reality. Like it's been an absolute constant, and Final Fantasy has been this shifting, franchise that is always trying to find out how to do the next seven. How are we gonna have the next seven? And it feels like they've been chasing this high forever, right? And
Right.
while the games are supposed to be different from each other, they've went so far off the deep end that they made a game that was just 100-hour long DMC game. It's very unusual, and I think in terms of Final Fantasy, if we're talking about like, because it feels like when people talk about Clair Obscur, sometimes they're really referencing Final Fantasy specifically. Um,
A
because
lot of
yeah, of
Final
course we
Fantasy
have
X discussions from what I've seen
yes,
on Twitter.
yeah, yeah, and that is something that I feel like Square Enix is, their mainline games as they're coming out, not the remake trilogy, but the mainline games have not been crazy revolutionary for a very long time. So like, pretty much since 10. Like since 10, we haven't had like a Final Fantasy game that was like bending reality. Like they just it hasn't happened. And like I said, 12 is my favorite FF game because I love Evilise. I love the aesthetic. I love the characters. I'm a big fan of it. I like the accents. I like the world. It's very unique. It's one of a kind. It's probably the same reasons why people are so obsessed with Claire. I get it. I get the obsession with the aesthetic of Clair Obscur. I can see it. I can feel it. It's palpable, it's tangible. What I will say is that, you know, we need a return to form for Final Fantasy. And sometimes franchises just need to go back to what they're good at, and trying to make something new every, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The amount of years that are in between these mainline releases is insane, by the way. It's like, it's absolutely insane. And so we have to wait forever for these games to come out, and when they're not good, we have to wait forever again for another one to come out. And it's like, Final Fantasy is out of the conversation for multiple years because of it. And when Rebirth exclusively drops on the PS5 and Remake exclusively drops on the PS4, like, yeah, Remake was big because it was on a console that everybody had, right? And while everybody has bought a PS5, that doesn't mean everybody still has one. And at the same time, it doesn't mean that the adoption rate for the games that are releasing on it is even remotely close to Nintendo, for instance, who, when a game releases on the Nintendo Switch, that people are buying it because the adoption rate on the Switch is crazy, right? And the PlayStation doesn't have that. God of War Ragnarok, the sequel to God of War 4, one of the biggest games that Sony's ever released, right, in recent memory, came out and did what, 5 million first week, and what, Scarlet and Violet did what, 20 million in what, 3 days? I forgot what the statistics were.
It's
You
something
know,
crazy, yeah.
the fastest selling first party game of all time, by the way. A game that people already knew was glitchy and laggy and weird. Like before the game even dropped, we knew. And people still bought it. Like it was no tomorrow. And it just shows you, bro. Like, some of these companies need to have a return to form. And Square Enix, I love you very much. And I appreciate you. But the mainline series, it's just not. I beat 16. It was a very emotional experience. I genuinely liked the game, but I didn't love it. I didn't love it, and I want to love things. So I know there's times where you're just like in love with something. Like, you're always telling us, like, when you're playing Metaphor or Trails, or you're playing something insane, like you're
Yes,
sharing it with us and you're
those
making it known that you love something.
those games, especially Metaphor at the end of the year last year. Wow, what a game that was. Um,
Yeah, and I still haven't
it
beaten it, and I'm kicking myself for not finishing it. But luckily, nobody spoiled me, so I have no idea.
yeah, it's one of those games where it's like I really like Mega Ten Combat, but like
Mm-hmm.
when you put like such a great story with it, and like Metaphor does something with fantasy worlds that is it's just so different than any other fantasy RPG that I've played. No spoilers, of course, but yeah, there's some amazing twists in that game, and that those twists definitely stuck with me. Um, and as you said with Trails, that franchise, wow, I could go on forever, but to keep it brief,
Yeah,
it's I love how it's basically like what the only turn-based RPG franchise right now that's like a one long, continuous, like overarching story. And
yeah.
it's been going on for 20 years, and we have the remake of the first game, Trails in the Sky, coming out later this year. Um,
I'm interested in that for sure.
yeah, that game looks incredible. Um, I'm so hyped to revisit that world in a new light, because again, the uh, the sprite-based Trails games are really charming, but like I'm so happy to see uh LaBeryl and Estelle and Joshua and these updated visuals and just looking great with updated combat uh,
It
based
looks
on the
good,
Daybreak
bro.
system. Yeah, it looks amazing. I can't wait. Um, and of course,
Trails.
just playing that on the Switch as well. Like I'm ready for that. I guess we could.
And that's. Go ahead.
I guess yeah, we could probably transition to Switch 2 after what you've got.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, you have been kind of like my core person for like Switch in general, and just
Mm,
like the ultimate perspective of what a real Switch user is. Like you're the ultimate example of a real Switch user, right?
yes.
Like a Switch power user. And so like, and I've talked about this in my Switch video, which was beautifully controversial, but I thought I had incredible points again. Um, and kind of the reasons why, people use the Switch and want the Switch to be their platform of choice. It's like there's a ton of reasons, right? So, um, Trails, I'm probably gonna get into it soon. So I'll definitely talk about it when I do. There's a lot of freaking games to play, so it's gonna take a
Yeah,
very
I
long
definitely,
time to get up to it.
I definitely advise you to take breaks in between. Maybe
Yeah, it
like a
feels like
break in
jumping into One
between.
Piece.
Yeah, it's like take a break in between each arc. So like the first three games, once you're done with those, like take a break and then continue on with
Man,
Crossbell and so forth. But
it's kind of
I mean,
exciting
it's a time investment for
to
sure,
think
but
about, like jumping into a new adventure.
it's so good. Yeah, it's so good.
Right. Yeah, dude, my favorite RPG of all human time is Akihiro Hino's Dark Cloud 2, Dark Chronicle. Um and this is just like overall I've been looking for a game that even remotely resembles the aesthetic of what they were going for. It's like there's nothing like it. And so I think about that game every day. Like every day I take a breath is a day that I'm thinking about Dark Chronicle. I swear to God. I'm not even joking. I've been thinking about that game ever since I beat it. Like it is really like that, honestly. Mind-bending game. And every person that I've gotten into Dark Cloud and Dark Chronicle has beaten it. Like they have not dropped the game. Every person that I've gotten into it has not dropped the game. They've beaten it. And it's long. It's really long. So um, I had a friend that used to work at Final Weapon, who I watched play Dark Cloud 1. He was mind bent by it, literally mind bent. And then he played Dark Cloud 2, and he was like, I'm not going to cry at this stupid old game. and then he starts crying. like, and like he's trying to tell us, he's like, this is not going to emotionally get me, like trying to be a tough guy. And then he's like, wow, that was incredible. I can't believe I'm crying right now. And so, the fact that a game from 2003 with like obviously a 2003 voice acting, it was great voice acting, but like, you know, it's of the time, even though it's like, can still be played by modern audiences,
Yeah, it has
can
its
still
charm.
emotionally affect people is, yeah, it's very charming. It's like Chrono Trigger. But the Nintendo Switch 2, that is a console that I think is going to eclipse everything that we've ever had, in terms of consoles. And this is my opportunity and our opportunity to glaze. And I want to say
Oh,
first and
plenty of
foremost that
glazing.
you're going to hear a lot of glazing about the Switch 2 for the remainder of this podcast here. Um, the Switch 2 is going to be, you know, it's going to be game changing because the Switch 1, every gripe that everybody had about the Switch 1 is being fixed. Oh, it didn't have,
Virtually, yeah.
the graphics, like it's like all these things are going to be like just stomped on, and this conversation about, which one has the better graphics, like it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's an old crumb side conversation that's going to be squashed. Like we're getting to a point where, you know, games are games. The fact that Cyberpunk is running on the console, they could make anything run on that thing. I'm telling you, they could probably get GTA 6 to run on it. I'm not even being funny. I'm not.
Oh, and it
Like,
might sound outlandish at first, but we are reaching a point where like graphics are sort of like plateauing, and like their
it's
demands are
true.
sort of plateauing as well. So on Switch 2, we're going to be seeing a ton of games that we just didn't think was possible to run on a portable device like this. And I mean, looking at the specs again, or at least the rumored specs, a Tegra T239 chip,
Yeah.
60 or 12 gigabytes of LPDDR5X RAM, um,
Mm-hmm.
8 cores. So this is a very capable system, so much more capable than um, Switch One. Probably not 10 times like Nvidia said in terms of like raw horsepower, but it's definitely like it definitely get close to that. Probably they probably factored in DLSS and other things like that. Um,
100%.
but yeah, this is looking to be running an Ampere GPU, which for people with PC game that would be like a RTX 30
Yeah.
series card, and the rumored specs and the leak that came out a while ago, those have been substantiated by some recent teardowns, and there were some very interesting findings that although it's like running on Ampere, there are some optimizations and sort of like improvements they made since it's a 8 nanometer custom chip, so it's not it's not like a off the shelf sort of chip like you would find in a graphics card. So it wouldn't be comparable one to one. We're talking about a system that is custom made with improvements that Ampere didn't get during its life cycle. So from the teardown, um, there were a lot of internal like components and almost like layout similarities to Ada Lovelace, which is very interesting. That
Yeah.
that means this system's not it's not a joke. We're gonna be getting games that run at native 4K on this thing, native 1440p, upscaled. Um, this is a true like next gen leap from Switch One, and I think a lot of people are underestimating what it could do. There a lot of people are thinking, hey, this is gonna run a lot of games at 30. Um, a lot of games are not gonna look as good. Sort of these expectations that they had with Switch One, because admittedly, yeah, it was an underpowered system compared to its competitors at the time, but Yeah, we're getting to the point where Nintendo's portable hardware is getting close to what something like an Xbox Series S can do, uh, which is very impressive. And
Yeah.
it's why games like Cyberpunk 2077 and Street Fighter 6 are looking great and even have better graphical detail than like even their Series S counterparts, which is it's very impressive. And I feel like a lot of people need to take note of that, and they should go into this generation of Nintendo with an open mind. I think no game is off the table for the system, just based
No
on
facts.
just based on like what Nvidia's done from hardware and software standpoint. It's incredible, and Nintendo's going to leverage it big time.
It's a huge flex. And I think people have been underestimating it for a very long time, and people still underestimate it. Friends of mine still don't get it, and I'm explaining it to them because I am the person in the group with the most knowledge of the technology, so I'm like trying to put it in their head. I'm like, and even before, when we knew it was always going to be Nvidia, right? It's
Right.
always been Nvidia, even with the Switch 1, and we knew that it was going to have DLSS from the jump. It was just an assumption. Like I said many years ago, I said the Switch 2, the sequel, whatever, the Super Switch, whatever we were calling it at the time, I said this is going to have DLSS for sure, because by the time that it comes out, this technology is going to exist, on the Switch. They're going to have it in the Switch. And they're just like, like that would be crazy. There's no way they would do that. And I was like, what do you mean there's no way? Like I would have these just crazy arguments like that wouldn't make any sense in my head, because I'm thinking rationally, common sense of the tech influenced man would be that, the Nintendo being a smart company and having a collaborative partnership with Nvidia would obviously put, you know, tensor cores, RT cores in the console and
Right.
have, modern microarchitecture that would support, deep learning super sampling. I mean, it's obvious. And so in my head, I was thinking, there's no way that people don't think this is going to happen. And of course it happened. And now we're here. And now and I'm just going to put that out there. I'm putting this out there. Sorry, everybody. While AMD has caught up as of recent on the console side of things, the technology of the AMD, the AMD technology in the PS5 and the Xbox Series is not equivalent at all to the
Oh yeah.
NVIDIA technology in the Switch 2. Like the Switch 2's Ampere tech is way ahead of the AMD tech that's in the PS5 and the Xbox Series. They can say that they have better raw rasterization. It does not matter. Like that does not matter. I'm telling you right now, it does not matter. This is a handheld console. It is going to be running Cyberpunk. Put two and two together. We already know now that FF7 trilogy, the remake trilogy, they're
Yes,
all
the
going to be
entire
on the
thing.
Switch too. The entire thing, right? Like, bro, if you don't want to put your game on the Switch too, you just suck at optimizing at this point. I'm calling you out. You just suck at optimizing. You don't even want to try,
I mean, I can bring up this example, and this just happened overnight, like the other day. But uh, Hogwarts Legacy, that's going to be running at 1440p on this system.
And that's a serious game. Like, I
It's a
mean,
big
that's
game,
a
yeah,
serious game. Yeah.
big game.
Like, I remember seeing people, dude, oh my God. I'm thinking back at, when my friend Novum had first played the game. Now, it wasn't his favorite game ever. He was,
Right.
it's like an 8.5 to me. It's like an 8.5. But it's a good game. Yes, it's a very good game. And I think, controversy aside of what happened when it came out, I think it's an incredible game. And I think people blaming the developers and publishers for something that the developers and publishers aren't responsible for is ridiculous. Like being upset and trying to boycott something that has nothing to do with the actual studio developer. Oh, you're giving money to this person. Whatever. I'm just keeping it at that. Weaponized. Shout out to Weaponized. We're on the podcast. I'm keeping it at that. Guys, let's relax, okay? Hogwarts Legacy, it was a great game, right? And what's even more impressive about that game, yeah, I don't know if you've played it yet, Soul. Have you
I have
played
not.
it at all?
No.
That game's world, mind bending. I use the word mind bending when I'm describing something insane. When I first played Hogwarts Legacy, I was like, oh my god,
Just
like
just real
Hogwarts, like the way it's
quickly,
like mapped.
yeah, just real quickly. There was something about um, I've never played the game, but um, I heard that it has like a different sort of loading. Like there's less load times because it's more like of a seamless world. Like I've never played it, so I wouldn't know. Um, but apparently, like the Switch 2 version, you know, is pretty much up there with the PS5, Series X, and um, PC versions, where you'll be playing this game and you won't encounter like all the load times you saw like on the Switch 1 version, and the fact that it's running it at 1440p, probably through DLSS as well, um, is actually really impressive
Yeah,
because you're going to be getting those sort of features you come to expect from a current gen console, but having that portably is crazy, and I'm
yeah, it's
very curious to see like what other games are going to be leveraging DLSS and outputting these really high resolutions on Switch 2,
yeah,
and still have all these features intact.
yeah, keeping everything together, keeping the game as it was, and making it look good at the same time on a handheld console by Nintendo, right? It's a flex. And me playing Hogwarts Legacy and knowing how good it is, and how big it is, dude. It's a big, like, it's really big. Like, in terms of just like, not just the amount of like content that there is, but the actual world itself, you know? Like, Hogwarts is massive and there's so much detail. And honestly, I'm saying this and I might be the first one to just say it, right? Nobody that I've talked to has ever mentioned the fact that Hogwarts just feels more alive than any other game that they've played, because like the students walking around and everything that's going on, I mean, it's a living, breathing world, And I mean, it really does feel like you're at Hogwarts. I mean, it's super immersive. So, I mean, it's gonna be awesome to see that on the Switch 2. And the Switch 2 is gonna have a ton of bangers. Pokemon's getting some upgrades. Even Scarlet and Violet are getting some you know, menial, they're getting upgrades, but they're not like the level of like, ZA, which is like a whole different version.
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
but
ZA
they're
is
getting
probably going to be
upgrades that
running
are,
at 60.
it is 100%. 100% that's running at 60. I think we could see it on the original like stream, that it was running at 60. It looked real good. And I think they might have talked about that too. Um, Scarlet and Violet, if they can get those games to run at 60 and get it crisped up a little, crisp it up, then I think people are
uh,
gonna maybe appreciate those games a little more, when they look a little better, is what I'll say.
yeah, maybe a good little texture update,
Oh, it
kind
needs it.
of. Yeah, a little one,
It needs
you
it
know.
because that game looks like Play-Doh. It looks like Play-Doh. There's revolutionary, man, and in my Pokemon like videos that I've made, I didn't really get into it, and I might only talk about this for 1 minute, but um, I'll be honest with you, the fact that there's like co-op and all this other stuff in the game, not like the raid stuff, but like actually walking around the world together, and like the stuff that they put in the, I mean, that's revolutionary for that franchise in particular. You know what I'm saying? So it did bring some new stuff that was really needed, and I'm sure they're going to continue on, in the next generation. And there's leaks about the next generation, and I don't know if I should talk about them because they're really extreme leaks, and I probably won't talk about them. But
Yeah,
the leaks that
probably
I've heard
probably
about
best not
Gen
to.
10, yeah, I won't talk about it, but I will allude to how I feel about them at least. It's pretty exciting, like where they're gonna take it potentially, what region they're going for, Gen 10. Um, it's very, very cool. Uh, and if it's what we think it is, and it's coming out exactly how they're saying it's gonna come out, this is gonna probably be one of the best generations we've had since like five, like Gen 5,
I
like on the
definitely,
Switch
yeah.
2.
From
Yeah,
what I've saw, I definitely agree. And also, just going okay, so before Switch 2 launch, like I was cautiously optimistic about ZA because I was like, okay, this is gonna be, you know, it's gonna be another Pokemon game on the Switch. Might have some issues. Um, but then just seeing that Switch 2 version just run so well and look so good, like
Yeah.
my confidence in that game is like skyrocketed. And
Oh yeah,
I haven't had that feeling with Pokemon since like maybe the 3DS. Cause
dude. Or Omega Ruby Sapphire, bro.
yeah,
I love those games. I
yeah,
love those games. I'm sorry, they're really good. I wish they had Battle Frontier, but again, they're really good games because I love Hoenn. But yeah, I agree, dude. Honestly, like I wasn't too hot on Sword and Shield. Like after the
me
first
either.
half, you're like, what's going on? Like, why does this game feel like it's falling apart? Like the first half of Sword and Shield's actually not that bad. And then like the second half of Sword and Shield, you're like, dude, what? Like what is happening? You know? And Scarlet and Violet apparently had a really, really good story, is what people think, you know. I don't disagree with people's opinion on the story. I think that, you know, for the most part, it did have a great story. But I think like all of that is muddied and muddled. All that's muddled by the fact that the game is ugly, right? And so it's like, you know, when we do get a better looking version of the game, I think people will look at it in a different light. But because it was on the Switch One, and you know, Game Freak, you know, was like, I don't know, rushing it out of the door, you know, like I have no idea what was happening. Hey, I will say it might not be the easiest for them to make so many animations for so many models. That's what I will say. And if they have to do it within 2 years, and you know, they're already developing the next game when they're developing the previous game, you know, like with Arceus, right? Pokemon Legends Arceus. They dropped the trailer for Sword and Shield a month after the game came out. So like they already were working on Scarlet and Violet pretty much when Arceus was coming out.
Yeah, and
So
that's always
that's
been
not a good
their
practice.
that's been their, cycle, yearly cycle of, hey, we got this game done. Boom, we're going to the
Yeah, we
next one.
need something to come out, you
We
know,
need
like
this
something has to
out.
come out.
We need this out, this fall. Like we got to get on it. And
Yeah,
I feel
we
like
need an
that,
anime counterpart, movie counterpart, all this like merch counterpart, trading card counterpart.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're
go
they're
ahead.
operating like a machine basically. Like they got to get this game out this specific time. Once we're done with that, we work on the next one, get it out that time. And I feel like
Yeah.
they sort of broken away from that mold a little bit ever since Scarlet and Violet, because they did work on DLCs and stuff for that and updates. But I think they've taken their time with ZA, especially since that's going to be like the big first Pokemon game for Switch 2. So, because honestly, I thought we would have had that game early 2025. Like I thought they were
Yeah.
gonna just, you know, basically do what they did with Arceus and release it at the beginning of the year, but they're taking their time with it, and I'm really happy about that because we're seeing it. We saw it in that Switch 2 Direct. That game is looking really, really good, and
Dude, yeah.
I guess also like the developers are probably getting really used to the Switch 2 hardware as well. So the sky's the limit from this point. Gen 10 is probably going to look even better than ZA right now, and that's
Oh
that's
yeah.
super exciting. That's super exciting.
I'm really excited for it, honestly. I'm definitely gonna buy it. Um, like I said, I had a video on it. I talked about it, talked about like kind of what people, you know, should do from this point on. You know, if they're a big Pokemon fan like I am, you know, they should approach it with caution. But after the Switch 2, like I made another after the Switch 2 presentation, I made another video. Um kind of alluding to Gen 10 and talking about things I wanted, and also talking about Legends Arceus, or sorry, Legends ZA. And that changed everything for me, because now, you know, we have like, bro, game, like the frame rate of a game makes it so much easier to continue playing. You know, when a game is just lagging all the time, you're just like, bro, I can't, man, I can't, like I gotta put this thing down, you know. But if it has a consistent frame rate and it looks good and it plays good and it has a good gameplay loop, like Arceus had a great gameplay loop, it's like when you get a good gameplay loop and you get, this comfy, chill, like the Pokemon's supposed to be comfy and chill. It's a game that you can play for hours and hours and hours on end. It has multiple different functions. You can go, trade with your friends, do contests. The games used to have a lot of stuff in them, like, the casino, which they removed. I really would like the casino back. I want the game corner back, please. That'd be sick. I'd love that back, please. But yeah, I think it's gonna be great. I'm excited for Pokemon, and the Switch 2. It's gonna be one of the greatest consoles ever conceived. So,
We're gonna have a
um,
lot of content in the works for Switch 2, by the way. A lot.
that's
So much
true.
content.
Yeah, y'all should look forward to all the content that Final Weapon is gonna have for the Switch 2 because it's gonna be epic. It's gonna be a ton of stuff, a ton of stuff. So, if y'all are looking forward to the Switch 2, there's not a better place to be. I mean, there might be a better place to be, but it's not us. So, yeah,
In line to get your Switch at launch, basically. Your Switch 2 at launch.
exactly.
But
Yeah, exactly. So, um, if you have anything else to say, I mean, I'm pretty much wrapped up.
yeah, I just wanted to say, I was a believer in Switch 1 before it came out.
Mm-hmm.
Like that presentation sold me on it in January 2017. Uh, Same feelings with Switch 2. I feel like this console is going to be absolutely incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the naysayers are going to be pretty quiet uh, after launch, is what I'll say.
Facts.
There's so many games in the works, so many rumored games. It's going to be unlike any Nintendo console we've ever had, and it's the same thing I said at the beginning of Switch One as well. But Nintendo's going to find a way to break those expectations again, and I'm
They
here for
are.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, they always do. And, you know, people doubt them every freaking time. And it's like, this is not the time to be doubting Nintendo when they're this up, Like, you guys should have more faith than ever that they're going to
yeah,
deliver, you
and there
know.
is some there are some drawbacks with Switch 2. Like the game key card,
Yeah.
controversy, like games not being fully on the cart. But we've had that little situation for a very long time now, unfortunately, with how big games are becoming now.
Yeah, you can't
So
even fit them on the disc anymore.
yeah, and it's unfortunate, and I mean there's still gonna be plenty of physical games. It's gonna be varied, but if that's how Switch 2 gets some of these huge AAA games, I feel like a lot of people will eventually see the uh, the worth in that compromise.
Yeah, there is worth in the compromise. And, you know, even I am no longer a physical collector. So I'm not the person that's like here, like super shocked by it. Um, Ever since I became like full blown PC for the most part, like I haven't been able to collect physicals, so it just kind of like wasn't a thing in my head of like, oh yeah, I need to collect physicals. In fact, I've become a lot more minimalist about things. Now, I wouldn't say I'm a complete minimalist. I definitely have some maximalist tendencies. Um, but I wasn't one of the people who was like, mind blown by the fact that they started, putting games on the cart or not having games on the cart. Like that's just like I get it. I get why they're not doing it. I understand the frustration, but like say if we do live in a world where you don't have access to these things when the internet's off or when what is the apocalypse happening and you survived it, like I mean what scenario do you really need all of these things to exist for, just for the potentiality of it, or is it the principle? Right, that's what I want to ask people. Is it, and hopefully people comment if they want to comment on the podcast. What is the purpose of the frustration being so deep? Like I want to get behind, like, is it the principle or like is it reality? because the reality is you most likely will be able to play these games forever. Nintendo's not going anywhere, right? And if you can't, right, what world are we living in? Are we living in a post-nuclear apocalypse world where you just happen to go into the bunker and survive? And you're like, why can't I play this Switch? Why can't I play this particular game? It's not on the cart. I'm just trying to get behind it. Besides the principle of, yeah, we're not actually buying the product anymore. I mean, there's so many different avenues where this was the case. Why are we mad when Nintendo's doing it? You know what I mean? Like, this has existed in a form forever.
Right, yeah, and even when Switch 1 came out, there was the whole scenario of like, oh, 32 gigabyte cards are going to be very expensive, so don't expect developers to use them much. And
Right.
that's exactly what happened, and it's unfortunate, like I understand some of the frustration, but I feel like it's overblown to a point because again, I feel like it's good to have options. Like
Yeah.
there's gonna be purely physical games, like Cyberpunk. That's 64 gigabytes worth of a game on the cart, and that'll work fine. And there's game key cards. Admittedly, I would prefer to have the full game on a cart, but I understand that Street Fighter 6 is gonna be like 54 gigs or something on Switch 2. So that's a huge game, and the cost of having that fully on a cart probably would make it unfeasible um, for that game to come to Switch too. And I feel
Yeah.
like
If
that's
they
something,
didn't.
yeah, that's something people got to consider because it's like they these releases do have a cost as well because
Hmm.
they have to mass produce the game, and if they're taking too much of a loss, it's not going to be good for them as a company. And we definitely don't want a situation where they're overspending to get releases out and not making enough money on it.
Yeah, of course. And I think people like some people don't understand like that, you know, the cartridges cost money because they have memory and
Yes.
they have to, the more memory, the more expensive they're going to be, and also like, if we had games that were bigger than the cart size, like we're not going to be able to play them if we don't have them in some shape or form because the developers are going to want to have a cartridge for the game, and especially the AAA titles, double A's, games that are popular that are going to sell. Like they want to have, not every indie, most indies don't get physical releases, right? But a lot of AAA games get physical releases still. That still
Well, a lot
happens.
of
So it's
I
like
see a lot of indies do through like third party
third party.
companies
Yeah.
like Limited Run or something
Hmm.
along those lines. I will say, um, I do get grievances toward like those double A games not getting physical releases because a lot of them are smaller games to begin with, and seeing a game like Bravely Default being a game key card game, it's like, why? Like this game's gonna be like
Yeah, that
two
doesn't make
gigs.
sense. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not even remotely like a large game, like in terms of size. Like it's insane that doesn't even make sense.
yeah.
It's
In
very
in that
confusing.
case, yeah, in that case, I'm like, yeah, I totally agree. Like, and the Sega games as well, like Puyo Puyo Tetris, uh, 2S, like that's gonna be like 2 gigs as well. So I definitely do understand the frustration. It's a lot of it's funny because it goes back to like Nintendo saying there's going to be like variable pricing. Well, there's variable situations for games as well,
Of
where there's
course.
so many. This game, 64 gigabytes on the cart, but a 2 gigabyte one isn't. It's so strange, but I think although a lot of the criticism is a little bit overblown to an extent, I do think it's worth having that there because I feel like a lot of the companies will sort of take note of that and maybe adjust their plans in the future.
I need people to chill. I get the frustrations, of course. Like I get it. But it's like, there's worse things to be upset about. And like, this is something that I feel like is inevitable when you look at the facts, when you look at what needs to happen in order to get these games on this console. Like that's just what needs to happen. If you don't want them to release it on physical at all, they could do that instead. At least you have something to hold on to. Like, they could have easily said, "Oh, it's just going to be digital," and just skipped out on the manufacturing process of the chip of the cart, at all, just completely omit it. But the Switch 2 is going to be a big deal. Grand Theft Auto 6, I'm very excited for it. RPGs are alive and breathing. Breathing and alive.
Oh yeah, there's
And
plenty to look forward to this year in the RPG
yeah,
space.
it's going to be a big year. It's going to be a big year. And we have obviously this major, major console coming out. So
Yeah, June is
I'm
going
going
to
to get
be
my
like
hands
the
on one, hopefully. Go
yeah.
ahead.
I fortunately managed to get a pre-order in for the Mario Kart World Bundle and Pro Controller. So
Yeah, I'm like hoping that I can do the same thing. Uh,
I think
I
there's
will
going to be a
definitely
lot
be
of
getting the
stock.
Switch 2.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of stock compared to like what Switch One was doing. Because they just been preparing for launch for months now. So there's going to be a lot of stock. So I think you should have
Right.
no problem getting one.
Yeah, I'm going to be hunting for one for sure. So I'm definitely going to try to have one before they inevitably, like, hopefully within the week of release, I'll try to have one. Um, just because I really, really, really want to Switch 2 and I want to play Mario Kart. Um, I know it's crazy. It's like, yeah, I want to
You
play Mario
playing
Kart,
Mario
guys.
Kart, huh? Like, what a shocker. But dude,
Yeah,
that
no,
game,
everybody plays Mario Kart.
yeah, but even then, like this Mario Kart game is doing, it's gonna be doing wonders because it's open world.
It's refreshing. It's a whole new take, you know? We're like going off course. People might say, "Oh, Forza Horizon did it." Like, stop it. This is Mario Kart. Like, this is Mario Kart. This is not Forza. This is gonna be a different type of game, a different type of beast, than what we've had previously. And like I said before, I hope the open world is really fun. I don't know what's going on in the actual like not racing portion of the game. Besides just driving around and oh, it's cool. Like
Right.
that can't be it. I highly doubt it's gonna be that
Oh,
simple.
I mean,
So
I could go over that real quick before we
yeah,
end off the episode. But so in the Mario Kart World Direct, they showed like in-game challenges that you can do in the open
right,
world. Like you can find like a one of those I forgot the name of it, but basically like one of those power uh point things that you could like stomp on in a normal Mario Kart game. But like you can
yeah,
drive over that and like start a coin challenge. There's also like secrets and things to uncover. And like eventually like if you do all the cups, you eventually get access to what is probably Rainbow Road, like this game's version of Rainbow Road. So there's gonna be a lot to do in this game, and I definitely think they're keeping some things about the open world hidden, um, just to you know allow people to have that opportunity to discover things.
I need it. I I need to. I think yeah. I don't think they would make. I don't think they would mess that up. I'm trying to get my thoughts together. I don't think they would mess that up. So I mean, when has Mario Kart ever been really bad? You know what I mean? Like it's always been good. See, people, this is what I was saying about Mario versus Sonic, bro, is that with Mario, like you're complaining about like what's the worst really good game? And with Sonic, you're like, what's the best really bad game? Like
Yeah,
that's the dialogue around Sonic is like, there's not like a bunch of really good games like there is with Mario where it's like so consistent you don't really have anything to complain about. Everybody always goes back to Sunshine and goes, "Oh, the Sunshine, bro. Remember when it was glitching?" I'm like, "Bro, that was on the GameCube." Like, that game's not that bad, guys. Like, let's relax.
And
Sunshine's not
also,
that
like,
bad.
Mario Kart is very consistent. I mean,
Super consistent.
there's things about each game that people prefer, and for a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
they like the dual racing format of Double Dash, or sort of like the consistent, streamlined
Double Dash
approach
is so good.
of what Mario Kart 8 Deluxe brought, because that was a very easy pick up and play game. Um,
Yeah,
and I feel like, yeah, Mario Kart World is just gonna elevate this franchise to like insane success. Like, in my opinion, I think this might do even better than Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, despite
mm.
the price hike, despite it being $80. And I think,
Yeah. I don't think the price is gonna stop it.
yeah, I think this game is like locked in. Like, it's gonna be a system seller. It's gonna sell like crazy.
I
And
believe that.
word of mouth, of course. I mean, this is how smart Nintendo is. Like, though they've been marketing this game with like uh the
Mm-hmm.
whole game chat feature set, where like you can drop into this game, invite your friends, and literally like play the game and chat with them at the same time, whether it's just through voice or video. And it's like the word of mouth is going to be crazy.
Yeah, just the fact that we're interacting with people in Mario Kart like we've never done before. We've never been able to really do it like that. The voice chat thing is a big deal.
Yeah,
It's a really
I
big
I,
deal.
I think people are underestimating that.
One
People
hundred
think
percent.
like,
Yeah.
oh, like Nintendo's finally getting voice chat, like we had that on the 360 like 20 years ago. No, this is different. This is different, man. Uh,
It's not the same. Nintendo's games are way more valuable than Microsoft's games, guys. Let's get out of our just take your head out of your like let's stop this nonsense.
yeah,
Guys,
like
like if we're playing Mario Kart, like it's not the same. Like what game does Microsoft have today that's Mario Kart? Like they don't have it. They don't have it. This is a game changer, bro. Especially the camera function, bro. I don't mean to interrupt you,
right.
but like
No,
in
no
Mario
problem.
Party, look at that. Look at the functionality that has. Like people are gonna say it's a gimmick, bro. All of Nintendo's gimmicks have been a big deal. Like,
Yeah, for the
dude,
most part.
the
Like,
Wiimote was huge. Obviously, the Wii U is different, but the Wiimote was a big deal. The Joy Cons
yeah,
have the same functionality as the Wiimote.
except a lot more precise.
100%. And you don't have to rely on the freaking infrared bar to keep it all centered. You know, like you don't have to have an infrared bar on top of the TV. You could just point it whatever direction and it just censors you.
Yeah,
So
the
it's
gyro
like,
controls are pretty good. I imagine it's gonna be like even like a lot better on Switch 2. Even though
yeah, it will be.
I never had a problem with like gyro sensing and things like that on Switch 1, but like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna be pretty great, especially with like mouse controls and things like that for other games. But
Mouse controls is really interesting, bro. You seen that footage of them playing Metroid Prime? They were playing Metroid Prime 4 with the mouse. Like, yeah.
yeah, dude, like there's gonna be a lot of FPSs coming to this console. Like, I can already tell, like with the
Oh
amount of
yeah.
power and mouse controls. Plus, like, there's so many games leveraging mouse controls. Like, I just read about like Civilization 6 or 7,
Mm-hmm.
and all these. It feels like there's another game that confirms mouse controls like every week. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of developers are going to be using it, which is great, especially for like
Yeah.
shooters like Cyberpunk and Metroid
Oh
and even
yeah.
Borderlands. It's crazy.
Oh, and that has crossplay. That has crossplay too. And the
Yeah,
crossplay on Borderlands 4, out the door, people always nobody really talks about this, but like having crossplay out the door for a game like Borderlands is a big deal. And I think people are just
Yes.
underestimating Borderlands. I think Borderlands is going to be big. I think people just have been underestimating it. The footage I seen that they dropped, that state of play footage, that was very good. That was a very good trailer. Like that gave me a whole lot of confidence in like Borderlands 4 that I didn't have like just, on initial announcement of the game.
Yeah, I wasn't
So,
really hyped either when they first announced
mhm.
it, but after seeing footage of it, I'm like, yeah. And they also confirmed dedicated loot drops as well, which
No, yeah,
is
to
amazing.
individualizing it to like every person instead of it being like, we have to share uh like if a legendary gun drops, like you and I have to decide on who's going to get it and who isn't.
Yes, and on
Like,
bosses, like you're when you're going into Borderlands 4, you're knowing that the bosses you fight are gonna have unique loot to them as well.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's huge.
that's it's really sick because like then and also the boss replay that they have, is really sick, and having unique weapons to specific bosses, like that's necessary. Like I hate that I don't want to live in a world where everybody can drop the same thing, or like I can get one weapon from the chest, or the boss just drops a weapon that I already have, or something similar. Obviously, it's rare that you'll ever get the exact same thing in Borderlands. And with all the different like facts that, or all the different companies, you can have their different perks on the same weapon. Dude, there's gonna be like an infinite number of weapons that you can have in that game. So, I mean,
Yeah, I remember when 3 came out, they were like hyping up what, like billions of potential weapons or whatever. I can't even
mhm,
imagine what it's gonna be like for 4. Plus,
four
like
is gonna be nuts.
those dedicated drops from a boss. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's gonna be crazy. But
yeah,
I got nothing
it
else.
looks really good.
I got
Me
nothing else
neither,
to it.
honestly. Yeah. Thank you for watching. Um, for all things, everything, check out finalweapon.net or follow us on our Twitter at FNLWPN. And if you liked this episode, subscribe, like, leave a comment, and we will catch you guys later. Peace out.